getting it figured out. Anyhow, so one of the things, I haven't done tutorials in forever, and it's been a moment, so I'm pretty rusty with a lot of this stuff. So one of the things I'm going to go over was something that I see commonly, which a lot of people ask on forums, groups, and I've been even pinged myself about, which was the issues that come up between how do I get, like, people trying to use a lot of this stuff from Mixamo. Mixamo, it's like a love-hate relationship for me with that thing. If you have questions or anything like that, feel free, send them up on the chat, whatever you need to do. Hello, Anthony. I do recognize the name Root Rancer, so yeah. By the way, Anthony, since that dude, he's in the chat, that guy knows rigging and a lot of stuff like that. And Anthony, if I'm wrong on any of this stuff, or you need to chime in, call me out on that, because I would trust your opinion over character rigging a lot more than most things. And skeletal differences, all that stuff, because that's the big thing I'm going to be trying to cover on this. So one of the things I'm going to go over is a lot of people trying to use Mixamo stuff and fuse characters. So I'll start with like the fuse stuff first. Fuse, you can easily get that through the Adobe and Creative Cloud that comes with it, and in here you can install it through either this, or you can go onto like a website. You can create a character through Fuse. I believe it's on Steam as well. I think I saw it on Steam. It's like free now or something. But it's a good quick character creator. If you follow like any indie game dev chat groups or anything like that, or any indie groups that are on like Facebook or anywhere else, you'll commonly see the look of these guys everywhere, because it's a very easy, quick program to do. Just get up, throw something real quick together. And then there's the really convenient automatic rigging character creation thing, which is the infamous Mixamo. So this has been around for a while. Mixamo definitely supports Unity stuff. I'm an Unreal dude first and foremost, because that's where I end up getting stuck, and I've been in there for a long time. I have no discrepancies with Unity. Unity is a cool tool, don't get me wrong. So one of the things that a lot of people do is they will get a character made, and again, it has a library of characters. I don't know why idle is my search pattern. But these characters, when Unreal Engine first launched, they were included in a asset pack, I believe, on the marketplace. So I pulled up my launcher real quick for that. Again, if I look up Mixamo, there is a pack that's been here. You'll notice it has over 202. I owned it way back in the day. And you'll notice it has a problem. It's not compatible, because there is something that happened around this time where Fuse, Mixamo, Adobe / whatever, decided, oh, you know what, we're not going to support Unreal anymore because Unity is just easier to deal with. So they ended up going with Unity. I know Unity was really the headway at the time for a lot of people pushing their games out the door. And then a lot of people stuck with Mixamo, trying to use Mixamo, had a lot of problems come up. And that biggest problem being is the character hierarchy skeleton, because Unreal uses root motion and it needs root bones, where this one doesn't have it. Now, don't get me wrong, using this is cool. You get quick characters. I've used a character out of here because I was under time constraints. I needed to get something out the door quickly, but I altered the character at the end of the day. And what's nice is like you can quickly choose a character you might need, like this, any of these. For now, I'll stick with the SWAT dude because he's already there. And it has tons of animations, all that cool stuff to just test between. Because it's easy enough just to select any of these animations, and then you get a couple of settings. You can change some stuff around, whatever you gotta do. Viewport control's odd. So I've already gone through. I've taken one of these characters here, like the SWAT guy, for instance, and I'm just going to go use this character. When I selected him, I don't need him to keep dancing, so however these animations get turned off. So if you notice right there, I haven't been in this viewport for a minute. This is a bone structure of that. I'll get into it a little bit more in Maya here in just a second. And I don't need it to keep dancing, which is ridiculous. So if you want this character per se, there will be like the download, and it'll say, because I had an animation on this, it'll ask, am I asking it to be with the animation, with skin, without skin? Usually you would say, people would say with skin because they want the character to come with it. FBX, FBX for Unity, and of course there is no Unreal anymore because they used to do that. But this character will have a default T-pose. I'm going to jump over to Maya because I've already downloaded all this stuff. I put it in just a character folder on my desktop. I've gotten the Mannequin folder as well. So this is the SK Mannequin. If you're trying to grab that character, you can easily come into any template that exists, such as going onto a launcher. It's easy enough. So if you see me pausing, I'm kind of looking back and forth to my screens to see like if anything's happened on the chat, to see if maybe I missed a message or anything like that. So just kind of excuse me for that. So now, since I'm doing a tutorial, I'm jumping all the way from 4.9, the last time I did a tutorial, jumping to 4.19. So in 4.19, easily go into launch, and I'm going to give Unreal a minute to load up here. But it'll present you with some options for templates, and one of the templates obviously being going over to a new project, and you have all these little templates. The template you currently see in the background, I just ended up choosing a third-person character strictly to get the mannequin out of there. But I did it with no starter content because I don't need to deal with any other content. And that content can get kind of heavy at times. There's a lot of stuff in there that I just don't need to mess with. It's good for just testing and iterations of stuff. So now that that's in there, anytime I go to any asset, I can easily just go right to the character, hit Control B to find it within the editor, or excuse me, in the content browser. I like to have this open as well so I can kind of see the project hierarchy of folders. All this extra stuff down here is engine content, so I can hide that if I need to, and plugin content. But if I'm looking for specifically this skeleton, usually we just get the main rig, have to skin. Yeah, true. What my buddy Anthony said on the chat, some good info. And if you're looking for this skeleton specifically, in the viewport, if you're looking at it through the world, this will have individual components that you can select and mess with in the world. I tend not to do that unless I have to edit the character and have it globally be affected throughout the game. You can either select the mesh, find it within the content browser here, this magnifying glass, and right-click, asset actions, and then export out. That'll give you an FBX file that you can deal with from there, and then you can start doing whatever you need to all day long inside of an external editor, such as Blender, Max, or Maya. Maya is my choice, which I'm having some problems with their pricing recently, so we'll see how much longer I stay with this program. Probably forever, because I probably have to, because that's what I know. So with that being said, I'm going to bring in the characters into Maya to kind of show you what's going on with them. So I've already set up my scene for one of the two things. So by default, Maya's viewport tends to work as, in the settings file with Y up. This is Maya's default. Unreal works in Z up. So definitely pay attention to that whenever you build assets or export out assets. That's one of the things you really need to take note of, especially when dealing with animations. It's just going to save you a headache at the end of the day instead of having to convert a bunch of stuff over. So if your viewport or anything you bring in is face down like this, just go up to Windows, Settings, Preferences, down to Settings, and you can go to Z up. So centimeter is one you're going to want to stay with for your scale. If you need to find any of that stuff for scale to Unreal stuff for Maya or whatever, just do a quick Google search. There's tons of people that cover that stuff. Sometimes you'll find your viewport is kind of odd when you switch to that. If you have to recenter stuff, just hold down Alt and Home, and that basically will take you back to the very default of your viewport. Same thing if you switch stuff around or you find yourself getting lost. Alt home always takes you back to where you need to go. So there's our mannequin character. And I have my outliner open. If you ever need the outliner, which is extremely helpful for navigating your stuff in the editor or in Maya, just go to most of this stuff. I'm kind of getting off track here, just going through every single one. But in Windows Outliner, that'll bring that up for you. So that'll show you this node. Now, that was one other thing I want to show you real quick. Whenever you export out a character out of Unreal and bring it into here, Maya is going to give you a group node because that's what that FBX was under. If you go to export this out, try to not have this root bone inside this group node, because if you select this group node, you export out and try to bring it into Unreal, it's going to have a conflict because it's going to recognize that there's 2 root bones in this character when there's really only 1. So one of the ways I tend to solve that is I'll go into the hypergraph at the hierarchy thing. So under Windows, all these other menus, so many menus. Under General Editors, Hypergraph Hierarchy. That'll basically, it's like looking under the hood of a car and like seeing everything that's in your scene down to every single node. I usually just take this one node, middle mouse drag, break it off so it's under its own thing. So you can do the same thing with the mesh, doesn't really hurt it. Everything is still going to be bound no matter what. Let me turn mesh selection off. So everything will still stay bound. So that way if I need to export stuff out, I can just select the root, mesh, export out. I'm good to go. I won't have a conflict next time I go to import into Unreal. Okay, so now the mannequin's out of the way. Let's get the Mixamo guy over, which is what everybody looks forward to since they have a lot of these issues that come up with that. So back in my file to my desktop, character folder, and I'll bring over the SWAT FBX. And there's our SWAT guy. So if you notice, the outliner just got populated with a lot of stuff. Let me bring the SWAT dude over here just a second. That's his geo, this is his hips. And if you noticed, its root went to its hips. And there's also a second problem, which is his head likes to float. Couldn't tell you why it is off the bat, but I'm just going to move that over real quick. Oh, by the way, up here is just an easier way of selecting certain things in your scene. Like, I don't want to select my skeleton, so I just turn off joints. And if you only want to select your skeleton and not the mesh, such as that, I'm trying to select the joints. Just go ahead, turn joints on, turn mesh off, and then you'll only be selecting joints at that point. Makes it a lot easier to deal with when navigating and selecting things. So back to this, and I'm just going to recenter the head back into where it goes. And we're good to go. Okay, so looking at our Mixamo character, in this scene you'll notice it came in with a geo folder, and it kept its own little thing for its skeleton, which is nice, unlike what happened to the mannequin when we brought him in. The only thing is you'll see all this other stuff grayed out, and what these are just blend shapes. So you don't need to worry too much about those if you really want to keep those. I'm mainly just going to go over some of the things I do to kind of get a workaround for dealing with kind of retargeting some of these animations from him to this guy or this guy to this guy. At the end of the day, it's just best to at least have a skeleton that's pretty close to this, especially if you're working on Unreal. That's just how I tend to do that. Hey, what's up, Twist? So one of the things we'll notice is that he doesn't have a root bone, and he just have his pelvis. So I can't see these joints. I'm just going to go into my shading and go to X-ray joints so I can see everything that lies within these characters. So when you're trying to bring this guy over to Unreal, it's going to ask you for a root joint, which he doesn't have. You can easily do that by recenter him over again, and I can add a joint to this guy. Man, it's been a minute since I've been in here. And I'll just add a joint off to the side real quick. I'll hold down X to kind of make it snap to the grid. And to keep this less cluttered, I'm going to grab my mannequin, everything to do with the mannequin, I'm going to throw him in his own layer. Okay, don't fight me now. There we go. Just going to hide that so he's out of the way. So with that one joint, I will grab its attributes and I'm going to scale it up just a bit. Ugh, all too many windows. So, yeah, I'm not going to worry too much about it. As long as I can find it in here, because I mean it's obviously in the outliner. So I'm going to call this one root. And I'm going to get this guy snapped over, holding down X. And I need to parent it. So usually when you parent these two, and I know that first the child, then the parent. So now our pelvis is not the parent, now just this root is. Just kind of what I want. So he's got his root joint, it's not running on the hips anymore. But now I want to do something like, let's say I have animations I'm pulling out of Mixamo, but I want to translate them over to a mannequin character. So I'm going to download a quick animation from Mixamo. I'll just leave it at that. With skin, without skin, I don't really need the skin on this guy. And I'll just keep it at that. So give that a minute. Go ahead and download. And one of the things I'm going to start doing is, I was going to say while it's downloaded, but it's finished, is I'm going to, first before I bring this animation in, I'm going to do a thing where I'm going to link these two up inside of Maya. And I tend to use HumanIK. I know that Anthony, who's in the room, he's used it probably a few times where he has some opinion on it. It's not a bad program. I'm not a rigger primarily, so I tend to try to find tools that help me get around with being able to transfer stuff back and forth between characters. So HumanIK, you can find that going into the rigging tool, and you should have one of these icons, HumanIK. And that's going to take a second to load in. The HumanIK is really nice if like you don't have a rig, you have no idea how to rig or anything like that. You can easily start binding this guy up to HumanIK, loading him into a library, and then from that you can get a really base control rig that kind of gives you something to work with. So I'm going to be linking two characters into this, and I'll kind of show you what happens once we do that. So I don't need to create a skeleton because we have skeletons for both of our characters. I don't need this tool set. So, what I needed was my channel box because I need to see my layers. So we already have skeletons for both our characters, both Mannequin and the SWAT Mixamo character. In HumanIK, I'm going to go in and define a character. So, I have to have this selected here. Why is that all grayed out? Usually it's supposed to give me, like, do you want to define something or not? Ah, great character definition. There we go. So what this will do is this will give us a chart. It kind of gives you a layout of how the bones are going to be. So what it does look for is it looks for a reference bone or the root bone that we just added, where Mixamo does not have that because all it has is hips. I will select it through... I'm going to select pretty much everything through the outliner because it's just easier to navigate that way. And all you have to really do is when you're defining a character, this is character 1, which is our SWAT guy. If you don't want to read that, you actually want to read a name, you can rename character. Wow, they've kind of updated this in 2018. I'm just going to call this SWAT Mixamo. And that'll save up here. This is also going to be a really dirty run through. I know there's a way to save all this stuff out, but I'm not really going to do that too much in here. So I'll give it on your guys' time. You can go and invest a little bit more time and do some research, and then you can save out these templates. So when you load these characters up, it'll know from where everything is at. So with the root bone selected, I can right click onto this. It'll give me a few options. It'll say assign selected bone change, but I'm going to assign this root bone here. And anytime this turns green, that means you're good. It's linked. If it's yellow, it means it needs like some moving around, or it's not in the right reference pose. And if it's red, that means it's just coming up with a problem, like it's not able to define it due to naming conventions, or it's just not connected correctly. There's a few other things that'll happen. Usually it'll tell you the status down here, what's going on with it. Alright, so going through, I'll go up to the hips, assign that selected bone to the hips, and I'm not going to keep repeating myself, so I'm going to go through real quick on this, and I can also use the arrow keys to kind of navigate up and down. So I'm going to use the arrow key for spine 1, which was already selected to this here. And if you hover over, it'll tell you to spine, SWAT spine. So now I'm in spine 1 at this point, which you'll notice the names start getting kind of odd. So it's like, oh, spine 2, spine 2. And you do this to like other... Okay, it kind of goes back to blueprinting as well, where like when we do numbers start from 0 on the... And then if you count in real life like a normal person, everything starts at 1. So let's go to our neck. Neck view, down neck 1, and then our head. Right, and that's going to kind of derail me again once more, is I got to bring up another problem. Besides the root bone, that the character for our UE4 Mannequin, they tend to only have one neck bone, whereas Mixamo has 2. We can still preserve that, but if you're trying to link these together, you're going to run into a problem where it's going to say there's too many, that the joints are in between each other, and it doesn't know what to do with them. In Unreal, that becomes a serious problem. So in order to alleviate that, HumanIK should kind of be a good workaround. And let's just keep on going. When we run into these issues, I'll bring them up and how I kind of get around those. So I'll hide that again. Keep on linking up these characters here. It used to be in a T pose. It's kind of funny. It's actually in an A pose. Or modified rig pose. So from left shoulder. And this arrow goes back as well. This will go further if you have bones in between. So jump back for you. Left arm. It should be left forearm. Just lower arm. And I need to open up the rest of these for hand. And if you notice, the nice thing is because these joints are named correctly, it kind of knows where to mirror them automatically. So go into hand, jump down, and now we're getting into the fun part with fingers, or digits. So we're on the thumb. We've got these first 3 down. And thumb 4, which is kind of like a leaf joint. Anthony, you could probably answer why you would need to have a joint at the end of these. Not really sure. I'm guessing it would be something used for like locators, but I'm not really needing to mess with this at all, so I'm not going to assign that to anything. And it's actually not a joint, it's just some kind of location node for this. So I'm in the middle. Come on, there we go. Let's do index, ring, make sure that was ring 3 and not 2. Okay, pinky. Cool. So our fingers are now done, and both hands are completely selected, just like the right hand is. Let's jump down to the legs. So we have left upper leg, lower leg, the foot, should be, and our toe. So if we jump in, there's a couple toe bones here. I tend to select either one of these or so, but I'll just go with the main for now. Alright, so jump back. So our guy is kind of linked into HumanIK, so we can actually lock this guy down. So with that, I will lock him in place. And can get a control out of it, which I'm not going to be doing. Next thing I want to do is I want to go over to my UE4 Mannequin and do the same exact thing. So I'll start with the root. I'm going to bring him back first, but before I do that, I'll organize up it just a bit more with hiding what I don't need to see into its own layer. So let's make a new layer, rename this, and this guy will be the, I'm just going to call it UE4 because I'm not going to do spelling incorrectly here. So we're going to get a flag here probably in a minute with this guy when we go to put him into HumanIK. So let's do the same process as before, but that's not the right root bone. It's this root bone that we want. And we need to define a new character. So we're still saying we're defining our SWAT Mixamo character, which we're not. So I will come over to the main options for HumanIK, and I will edit a new character definition. Whoa. Wrong? Excuse me. Come on now, where are you? Did this earlier this week and now it's beginning to evade me. Just go to none and we will create a character definition. So now we're doing another guy. So we still have our SWAT Mixamo, we're just defining a new one. Sorry about that. That's the beauty of doing things live. Just like all the events you saw at GDC, if you watched any of them, they had rehearsed it 3 times and then things didn't work when it went live. It happens all the time. Spine 2. If you notice there's that weird numbering, so spine 3, but this is under spine 2 in HumanIK, but really we're just going to worry about making sure this gets linked correctly. So I'll go into clavicle, go down, upper, oops, sorry about that, bling. It's renaming here, but let's go upper arm, lower arm, and there's our flag I was going to tell you we were getting. We will fix that in just a minute here. Oh, make sure I didn't do upper arm twist here. Cool, I didn't. Let's knock out the fingers real quick because that's always really boring. Index 2, index 3. Middle, end, pinky. So the ring. Thumb. I'm going to hover over these times just to make sure I've got the right ones here. Yeah, ring, pinky. Cool. And our thumb. Again, just right-clicking, hovering, click. Alright, so let's go ahead, take care of our neck and head. Go back, jump into the head bone. Upper leg. Lower leg, and to see where we're at, foot, we're not selecting the calf twist, we just want the foot bone, and then our ball joint for basically the very bottom of the foot, forward. Cool. Alright, so let's deal with this warning that we have. So if you're hovering over that, tell you that the right arm, left arm, this doesn't seem valid. What that basically means is if you look in comparison to the one we just got done doing that seemed to have worked, the Mr. Mixamo guy, he's in a good T-pose. That's why it came up with no problems at all. Believe it or not, to really fix something like that, it's as simple as just taking his arms and literally just rotating them up. And hopefully it doesn't make me look like the fool here because 90% of the time that's all it really is. Go to the front view here, see where we're at. Alright, so joints have to be almost just about straight. It could be twisted as well, which is another thing. take a look at the attribute editors here. Do 0 rotation here. That's totally not what I want. Alright, try clavicles, see what that does. Clavicles doesn't have an error, so that one's fine. Let's see if any of these forearms. Why it's giving me trouble here. Okay, let's grab the lower arms. There we go. Ah, should have gone from the top. That would have told me everything. See what kind of trouble we get into later with these. Man. It's just like when you sculpt an orthographic view and then you jump into perspective and then things look terrible. Just trying to get this to be straight. Alright, so one arm is classified as good to go. See why our other arm is giving us some trouble here. What I think I'll do is I'll probably end up... Oh, that's not bad. Clavicles should be pretty much fine. Alright. So why are you giving me trouble and not your other one? Yeah. Huh. These are the exact same in terms of positioning and everything. It's just giving me problems. I should be fine from this. So I'm going to keep pushing through and we'll see what happens. It should be good. It should be fine. So one of the things I'll do is now we have sources that we can say we want to go through in terms of animating. So I'm going to bring over the Mixamo anim by importing into the scene, and just for safety reasons I will save this out. I'm probably going to save it out as a Maya binary because I have a little bit less trouble with that when it comes to animation stuff, whereas like Maya ASCII is definitely for like more art type stuff where you gotta link materials together, things like that. So I'm going to go make a folder, call this Maya scenes. Call this the Mixamo Retarget. Alright, cool. So I'm going to bring back our Mixamo guy, where he's in his standard T-pose. Now we have the scene saved out, so we can go back to that as a safety in case something severe happens. So back in my character folder, or is it in my downloads because I just downloaded it? Yeah, Samba dancing. Alright, so let's drop our dance animation over. Drop it into the scene. You'll now see the Mixamo character has updated to his animation and has all that stuff going on. And we do have a problem here with that rig bone or root bone because it has no anims and it's stretching. That was kind of why we went through and we did the HumanIK. So if I bring back our UE4 character, you'll see he's still in his T-pose, not doing anything. This is where HumanIK really tends to shine. So I'm going to switch back over to our SWAT Mixamo character. Excuse me. I'll stay with our character that we just did, the mannequin. And if I say I want a source for him to follow, because we linked those bones together, it should just follow him, hopefully. Yep. Yeah, I kind of tensed there. I was waiting for it to crash or something crazy. But now, like, if we go ahead and we hide our Mixamo character, our mannequin guy is actually inheriting all the same anims, but only for those bones. Now we can do some more experimenting where like we bake out these animations and see what happens when we bring them back into UE4. But we'll probably end up baking out these anims and we'll have to do some correction with on his root motion. So that way we have both like root for him actually moving through the world doing this anim, or the root staying stationary. So I'm going to bake these anims down. So what I'll do, I feel like I kind of derailed from most of the stuff I was going to talk about. And I'll just export out this selection here. I'm just going to borrow this name, but I'm not going to save over it. And I will call this Samba Dancing FBX. And for my main options, I tend to use Smoothie Group, Smooth Mesh, which is fine. Everything else can be turned off. Animation's checked on. It's animation length. So with this anim length, I don't know if that was really loud. Sorry if that was. We'll go back over. I will take what the anims were that came in. Don't really need to resample. I'm not too worried about that. I do need to deform models and skins. And everything else can be pretty much just checked off because it's extra data that doesn't need to come over with our file as we export it. Scaling factor, yes. There's the axis conversion here. If you're doing, say, modeling or you're exporting out your anims, you can change it from X, Y, or Z and Y. I'll just leave it in Z because that's what Unreal reads it as. And we should be able to save this guy out. So let's bake the animations down to that skeleton, hopefully. So now, if we jump back over to UE4, and we'll see if we import this from our mannequin guy. It actually linked to the UE4 Mannequin skeleton because it recognizes it as being the same. I don't need to import the mesh, I just need to import the anim data. And we have that retargeted and he's moving along. Now to see what happened to our root, because we had some funny stuff going on in Maya, we can bring up our show. Should be in advanced here. There we are. Oh, not there. Ah. Man, okay, so yeah, they've updated some stuff. I've been in 4.19 all that long. So bones and just go to all hierarchy. So the nice thing is it gave us a stationary root that stayed connected with it. So if we were to do a root motion animation, this guy would float and then he would pop back. But unless you wanted to keep him stationary completely all the time and never move, you would need to enable the root motion. But he's not going to stay. So a way I have found to kind of alleviate this is I would open up a new scene with him and then deal with the root as he kind of goes. There's a few ways to do it. I know with the animation rigging toolkit that'll solve a lot of those problems. So now let's say that we had some animations that we were getting from the Unreal Marketplace or in our Unreal packs, so we wanted to transfer that to the Mixamo guy. So because we saved our scene out, I'm going to open that up again. And I don't want the Samba dancing, I just want our Mixamo retarget file that we just did. So we have that, we have HumanIK, we have both our characters. And let's go into, oh man, this is going to be really painful to show you guys, but yeah, I've kind of binge bought for a while. Helps get things moving along, which is nice. So, actually, let's see, because our character has some anims within that actual test scene, in this one here, I can actually jump over to the animation blueprint this guy is using. And I could find a few things that he has. So let's say we have this walk animation that we like, because it's very fine. We can export this out. So I'm going to go back to the editor, or content browser, asset actions, and I'm going to export this one to here, mannequin, third person walk. So now we have an animation we pulled from the engine. It is now saved out as an FBX. If I go back to Unreal, I can pretty much do the same thing with having the file mannequin, and there's our third person walk. If I bring him in, our mannequin updates from the Unreal with that anim. Because our retargeting was a bit different on the HumanIK where that arm had a problem, you now notice that there has been an issue that has come up with the arm being out of place. So we would have to go in and fix that because his arm is just way out of place. A few things are out of place. They got scaled all over the place. Crazy. So he's not using any source. But if we ended up going into our SWAT Mixamo character, bringing that back, we say our source is character 1, he's inheriting it just fine. His anim's very fast because I have it at 30 frames a sec, so I'll turn it back to 24. Either way, he's getting his anim for the walk animation. So that's another way you can transfer anims to a Mixamo character per se. So this is the part where I'm going to try bringing over the Mixamo character into the Unreal Engine and see what kind of conflicts may come up. Ways to work around that. There might be another time that I could try showing how to get the Unreal rig system linked into here and then basically binding the character to that as well. That might be a little bit later in the stream if I keep going with that. So for now, I can grab him, grab the mesh. Basically I need the root and the geometry. Oh, so it's only pieces. I don't want to grab that. So I'm going to split these geometry pieces out of this node because I don't want to run into a conflict of this node flagging Unreal thinking it's another root bone. So again, going back to Windows, to General Editors, Hypergraph Hierarchy, I can grab any one of these parts from the scene. If I push F in a hierarchy window, that'll bring me to where everything is. I'm going to grab those two, break them off. Whoop, I guess not. That'll have to be staying. Anyways, let's just try it, see what happens. A lot of these jobs tend to be like, okay, trial and error, export. Alright, so I'm going to grab that same name, but I'm going to put it into the Mixamo. I'm going to put a SWAT in the very beginning of it, so it differentiates, it gives it a different naming convention than when I bring it into Unreal to try to save over the one that might be existing or so, but really that goes into content browser in terms of the file directory in which you're saving it. So this is fine. 24. So I need to make sure that it's also a loop real quick. So I know frame 1 is that, 24. Yep. Let me make sure that between the mannequin and him, how far these animate along. Okay, so there we go. So let me extend this out to 60, see how far that is. Cool, only 24 frames. Select that root of the Mixamo guy, and those pieces for the geometry. Re-export it out. Oops, not mannequin. Mixamo. Different name. I don't know why I keep pushing R. So 0 to 24. And we'll export that out. Cool. So gives you a couple weird little warnings there. So in Unreal, what we'll try to do is we're going to try to link these two together. I don't think it's going to work. Actually, it won't work because there is a problem with one of the bones existing between the neck and the default UE4 character mannequin. So with that being said, I'll show you the error that will occur. because this Mixamo character does not exist, it will need to import up, it'll actually need to create a skeleton and quite a few other things for it. So swap third person walk, import mesh skeleton, yes, because none of that exists. If I try to say UE4 Mannequin skeleton, you'll see that it will probably give us a problem. Right now it's going to take just a sec because it's importing all of the textures and it's creating us a quick default material for all of these textures and the material ID slots that exist on the character, which is like, I think 3 or 4. The SWAT guy is pretty optimized, so it's not too many. So this is the error that came up because there's the extra neck bone that was inside that character. So, yeah, yes, oh yeah, you're going to get some problems. So, again, this is why Mixamo is such an issue. This is why I don't like messing with Mixamo. So, there's also ways that you can eliminate that neck bone to get rid of it. And honestly, when it comes to things like that, I tend to brute force a lot of that stuff too. Where that was one of the things I wanted to go over for this stream. First off, is just how to use the HumanIK, because that was a question that was asked to me. I think next time I'll probably just end up going over getting the animation rigging toolkit up and running, and just rebinding this. So, alright, well, that wasn't the best stream ever, but hey, I was practicing again, so hopefully you guys found something useful out of that. I know the HumanIK is definitely one that solves a lot of retargeting problems between various skeletons that are really different from each other. So, yeah, if there's any questions, feel free to send them now, because I'll probably jump off and come up with another thing for later to cover, if need be. That head. Yeah, so this was kind of this stream was also kind of out of the blue too. So, there. Stream is kind of out of the blue too, I meant to say, because if I'll experiment around a little bit more for these Mixamo characters, and the next time I actually come up with a little bit better solution for if you're like hell-bent on using the Mixamo character because he's already there and you don't want to deal with like unbinding the character and then reskinning them to the default UE4 Mannequin, which there is a way I could show how to do that. It's another process in and of itself. It's not as complicated, but it's basically you're saying, I want to use this character from Mixamo that I might have created using Fuse, and I want to bind it to a default UE4 character. If you do that, then it makes retargeting 100 times easier for a lot of the rigs you're going to come across in the asset store if you are prototyping stuff really quick. So, go away. So, if you're prototyping stuff like really quick in terms of like, we need to try to use, I don't know why he's tagging me in that. If you're trying to use like, okay, I need to try out my character's walk cycle to make sure that different functionality of gameplay works. That's one of those things you can do. I don't know why his eyes are up like that. Deathly dead. And so, I know the other cool thing is Maya has had a lot of improvements in terms of adding in skeleton or skin weighting for characters. Like they use capsule binding, which is really nice. So yeah, I'll probably save that for another stream, more than likely. So for now, I'll probably just call it on that. I gotta get back to some projects I'm working on. So we just announced a project I think earlier this week. like we got permission to show it off, so I've got to get a lot of stuff done for that. In terms of doing a lot of AI stuff. Once I get a little bit more permission or we get leeway to be able to show it, I could do streams on just like what I'm doing production-wise on that project, since I'm doing a lot of the underlying logic for it. And what it's kind of like trying to like go, what it's like to kind of work with a artist-heavy person that you need to keep an eye out for optimizing assets and keeping a scene running. Because currently my job is doing a lot of VR stuff, and that VR is so dependent on just keeping stuff so optimized. It's nuts. So I'll stop my rant there. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, suggestions, whatever, man, just shoot me a message. I'm bound to probably see it. So personal work, okay. Personal work, the only thing I've really done is I've been working on a dialogue mission system. But the other one I just mentioned in terms of project-wise, that's one I've been on for like a while now. It's not my personal one. My personal project, I'll gladly show off. I don't give a damn. Because I'm not really bound to the same rules. But yeah, my personal one right now, that one's still very, very ugly. A lot of different stuff I'm working on in order to like just kind of put it together to make it work. So once like the base is actually working, then I'll show it off for sure. Because then I know there'll be a lot of questions like, how do you make this work, and how do you bind that and give multiple hierarchies to AI to run off certain things. So I have no problem answering that. So alright, we'll call it there, and I will guess I'll catch you all another time.